Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am doing another book video. I'm going to be doing recommendations of lesser known romance books. Romance books that you might not have heard of. I don't really know what I'm going to call it. So I tried to compile some of my favorite books that I've read that you might not have heard of, or maybe you've only seen once or twice and you just forgot about them. Hopefully I have some books that you haven't heard of yet. I think I should. So to try and make sure that you guys probably hadn't heard of them that much either, I went onto Goodreads and sorted my read books by the number of ratings and went from least to most. Okay, so I decided to start with the series that you guys have probably seen. So there is a good chance you've seen it on TikTok or Bookstagram or whatever, and that is the Zodiac Academy series. I only have the first 5 books. I've read the first 3 books. So far, I'm really enjoying them. I'd give them overall as a series like 4 stars. Basically, this series is about 2 girls, the Vega twins, who basically they end up finding out that they're actually royal fae. So they get invited to Solaria, which is like the world where the fae live. And they start to attend Zodiac Academy, and they basically have to finish their schooling there to get their inheritance. There's the 4 celestial heirs, who are these 4 guys who have been the heir to the throne since the Vega twins obviously were like not in the fae world. A lot of stuff happens. I can't really say too much without spoiling the rest of the books, if that makes sense. But I highly recommend checking out at least the first one. I think it's really good. Okay, so next I figured I'd just talk about the other book that you probably have heard of. It's relatively well known, but it's still, you still might not have heard of it, and that is, Cruel Prince by Ashley Jade. This cover is actually atrocious. This is part of the Royal Hearts Academy series. It's a bully romance, high school, friends to enemies to lovers. I really enjoyed it. It is, like I said, part of a series. I haven't read the rest of the series. I definitely plan to. This book, I really enjoyed it. It was one of the first books I read when I got into romance. So it has been like a little over a year since I read it. But I gave it 4.5 stars. I definitely recommend giving this a read if you are into bully romances and friends to enemies to lovers. If you're not into bully romance or anything, probably don't read it. It's not going to be for you. The next book I want to talk about is Falls Boys by Penelope Douglas. Now, this book, I thought it would be super well known because I know Penelope is obviously an extremely popular author, but it didn't have many reviews on Goodreads and never really hear people talking about it on Bookstagram or BookTok, even when it first came out. But this is so good. I gave this book 5 stars. It easily became my favorite Penelope Douglas book ever, and it wasn't super dark or super smutty like a lot of Penelope's books. So if that's what you don't like, I feel like you might like this. There's also a subplot of mystery, which is super fun. This book is the first in a new series called the Hellbent series. This is the only one that's out so far. And it's a spin-off to the Fall Away series by Penelope Douglas. You don't have to have read it to read this. So if you haven't read it, or if you just don't like the tropes in those books, that's completely fine. You can just go straight into this series. I really enjoyed it. It's like bad girl, good boy, which is one of my favorite tropes ever. And I can never find, if you guys know any bad girl, good boy trope books, please let me know, because I'm obsessed with it. I'm obsessed with that dynamic, but I can never find books with it. So if you know any, please let me know. Like I said, there's the subplot of mystery. It's sort of rivals to lovers. There is the street racing aspect that you obviously get in Falls Boys, which I love. It's about Hawk and Trent, who is, yeah, Jackson and Juliet's kid. I think he's like school valedictorian type of vibe. And then there's Arrow, who is from the other side of town, doesn't come from any money or anything, and long story short, she ends up having to hide out in this secret like tower house place, if that makes sense. And there's a lot of mysteries that surround it all. Really, I think the thing that will give you the best idea of this book is to read the blurb. I went in having no clue what it was about, and I loved that. I highly recommend doing that. Even if you normally don't like Penelope's work, I feel like this is quite different from their normal books, so I would recommend still checking it out. Next up is another one of my favorite reads this year, and that is the Mindfuck series by S.T. Abbey. I feel like everyone has heard of this series at least once, surely, but I feel like a lot of people don't pick it up for some reason. I also am pretty sure they're all on Kindle Unlimited, so you can read them there if you have Kindle Unlimited. But if you don't know what this series is about, it's basically about Lana Myers, who is actually a serial killer, and she ends up meeting Logan Bennett, who turns out to be an FBI agent, and they slowly start this relationship, and it turns out he is actually trying to solve her case, if that makes sense. It is, I guess, quite dark because she's a serial killer. It really felt like reading an incredible episode of Criminal Minds, and I highly recommend you read this if you like that show. I gave this series 5 stars. I think it's incredible. Next up is a book I read just last month, and that is Gothic by Runix. Again, I expected this book to be super well known because Runix is quite a popular author, but I don't really see many TikToks or posts about this on Bookstagram at all, and when I checked the amount of reviews, there was not that many, so I guess it's not as popular as I thought it was. But I love this book. Another 5-star read for me. This book quite literally changed my life. I don't want to talk about it too much because I feel like I talked for so long about this book in my last video, and I talk about it all the time on my Bookstagram, which is at Jamie's Books, so I don't want to talk too much about it here. But basically, this book is about Corvina Clem, who is 22 years old. She grew up with her mum, who has schizophrenia, and she ends up getting invited to this mysterious university called Varenmore, which is basically like a castle on top of a hill. She ends up meeting Vad, who is known as the Devil of Varenmore. He's her professor that no one really likes him. There's people going missing, there's like ghosts and spirits. It's so good. It does talk a lot about mental health, so if that's triggering to you, maybe don't read it. I don't know, check the trigger warnings before you read it because it could be triggering for people. But I really love this book, and if you haven't heard of it, now you have. Go read it.
Hi, it's me editing this 2 weeks after I filmed it. Also, ignore that, I'm actually vlogging today, so if you want to watch that vlog, make sure you turn my post notifications on so you don't miss it. But I just wanted to say, like I said, I filmed this video 2 weeks ago, and in the past 2 weeks, these next books have really blown up over TikTok and Instagram. They were already quite popular, but I still feel like they weren't super well known. But over the past 2 weeks, they have really blown up. So you probably have heard of them. But I'm going to leave it in because I love these books with my entire heart and soul. And on the off chance you haven't heard of them yet, you need to. So,
okay, the last physical books I have to mention is the Magnolia Parks universe. Okay, to start off with, this universe consists of 3 books currently. It goes Magnolia Parks, Daisy Hates, and then Magnolia Parks The Long Way Home, which is a sequel to Magnolia Parks, but you have to read Daisy Hates in between. And I believe there is like another Daisy coming out and another Magnolia, possibly a 3rd Daisy, I'm not sure. But for now, the reading order is this. This universe literally changed my life. I guess it's not counted as a romance. These books don't have happy endings, so if that's not for you, fair enough. There is also the cheating trope in Magnolia, so if that's not for you, fair enough. Extremely toxic relationships, but it's so good. Like, it's so good. This whole, like, every single book in this universe will always get a 5 stars. I actually haven't read The Long Way Home yet because I just don't want to deal with that pain right now, and I feel like it's going to be painful. So I haven't read this one yet. I'm just going to put it here for now. But these 2 books, both 5 stars. literally incredible. Personally, I prefer Daisy over Magnolia, like the book and the character, just because it's not quite as toxic or anything as Magnolia and BJ. But both books are incredible. Look at all those tabs, and like, I don't tab books ever. These books are absolutely incredible. It's like London rich kids, like not kids, in their early 20s. They went to boarding school. The universe is very similar to Gossip Girl, so if you like Gossip Girl, you'll love this universe, especially Magnolia Parks. If you like Chuck and Blair, you'll probably like Magnolia and BJ. A lot of toxicity. These books really aren't going to be for everyone. Keep that in mind. If you don't like cheating trope, if you don't like toxic relationships, if you don't like a not happy ending, maybe don't read them. As much as I want everyone to read these books, maybe don't, because you're probably not going to enjoy them, and that's completely fair. Thank you to Ellie for forcing me to read these books. Ugh. If you haven't heard of these books, go buy them, go read them. I swear you will not regret it. Your life will be changed for the better. And if you do read these books, please DM me your updates and your feelings as you read them, because reliving these books through other people is as close as I'm ever going to get to reading them for the first time again, and I will appreciate it forever. Okay, so now I have 3 books that I read on Kindle to tell you about. The first one is Stoneview Stories by Lola King. I gave this series like a 3.5, 4 stars overall. I thought it was really good. I honestly started reading this because the main character's name is Jamie. It's a high school, I think it's kind of a bully romance. There is a love triangle in this series, so if that's not for you, that is your warning. It is a trilogy. Each book follows the same couple. It's giving in, giving away, and giving up. They're a mafia style book, but not in the way your typical mafia book is, because like I said, it's like a high school bully romance intertwined with a mafia. It's kind of hard to give a synopsis, I guess. Again, I would say just like read the blurb for this one. The next trilogy I want to talk about that I read on Kindle Unlimited is the Windsor Academy series, which is Wicked Liars, Ruthless Kings, and Fallen Heirs by Laura Lee. Once again, it's a high school bully romance trilogy where each book follows the same couple. Overall, I gave this series 4 stars. I really enjoyed it. So this trilogy is about Jazz, who moves in with her dad and her stepmom and her stepsister and has to move to a new school. Her stepsister is dating this guy Kingston, who is sort of like the popular guy, the king of the school, if you will. Like I said, it's a bully romance. There's a lot of subplot with mystery, corrupt parents, those sorts of things, you know, rich kid problems, but on a really big scale. Definitely check the trigger warnings, because some of the themes could be triggering to some people. I can't say too much without spoiling like the 2nd and 3rd book, but it's a really good high school bully romance with a super interesting plot that goes a lot deeper than just being a high school romance book, if that makes sense. And I would highly recommend it. Okay, so those are all of the books that I have to recommend today. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will have all of my links on my link tree, which will be just in the description box below, to my personal Instagram, my Bookstagram, my TikTok, all of that. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you guys have any video ideas or requests that you want me to do, any recommendation requests, let me know. Other than that, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.